My hands were shaking so violently I dropped my phone twice before I could even unlock it. I was sitting in the bank manager's office on a freezing leather chair that smelled like sanitizer and anxiety, while the air conditioning turned the sweat on my back into ice. It was 2:15 in the afternoon on a Wednesday that would change my life forever. Mr. Henderson looked at me with those pitying eyes I despise. He had just told me something I could not believe, something that made no sense, something that should have been impossible. "Mrs. Miller, your daughter-in-law was here less than an hour ago. She attempted to withdraw the $200,000 from your savings account. She brought your death certificate, my $200,000, the money I had scraped together selling my parents' fabric shop, the business I inherited and kept open for more than 30 years, waking up at 6 in the morning every single day, serving every customer with a smile, even when my knees were throbbing, even when my husband was sick, even when my world was falling apart. That money was supposed to be my peace of mind, my dignified old age, my freedom to never be a burden on anyone." "Impossible," I told him with a cracked voice. "I am alive." The one who died yesterday was my sister Brenda, my twin sister. Mr. Henderson nodded slowly, and then I saw his fingers trembling as he opened a folder on his desk. "I know, Mrs. Miller. That is why I called you immediately. But there is something else you need to know." He paused for what felt like an eternity. "Your daughter-in-law has already made online purchases with your additional credit card before the supposed funeral. $15,000 in the last 5 days. $15,000. I felt the office spinning around me. The smell of stale coffee from the manager's mug made my stomach turn. My fingers gripped the brown leather purse I have owned for 15 years, the same purse that Brittany, my daughter-in-law, always looked at with disgust, telling me it looked like something from a charity bin. Forgive me for interrupting this hard moment, but I need you to be with me in what I am about to tell you. I need you to accompany me to the end of this story, because I do not wish what I lived through on anyone, but I know many of you are going through something similar. If you are listening to me from Texas, from California, from New York, from any corner where people are struggling, leave me a comment telling me where you are from. I need to know I am not alone. And if this story touches your heart, if it makes you feel something, give me a like. Not for me, but for all the mothers, the grandmothers, the aunts, who are being betrayed by the people they love the most. My name is Linda Miller. I am 61 years old. I just had my birthday on January 8th. I was born and raised in a neighborhood in Chicago, in a house with a concrete backyard where my mom hung the laundry and my dad grew tomatoes. My parents opened the Golden Thimble fabric shop in 1968 when I was barely 4 years old. I grew up between rolls of fabric, spools of thread, and buttons of every color stored in glass jars that made music when you moved them. I learned to hem before I learned to multiply. I married Bob when I was 23. He was a mechanic. He worked at a repair shop on the north side. He was a good, quiet man, the kind who fixes everything in the house without you asking. We had only one son, Jason, my reason for living for 35 years. I raised him among the fabrics of the shop. He did his homework on the counter while I helped customers. I paid for a private college, working 12 hours a day. He studied business administration. He graduated with honors. When Bob died 8 years ago from lung cancer that took him in 4 months, Jason was my support. Or so I thought. He hugged me. He told me, "Relax, Mom, I am here." He went with me on Sundays to visit his dad's grave. I sold the shop 5 years ago because I just could not do it anymore. My knees were destroyed, my eyesight was tired, and the competition from the big box stores selling everything cheaper was killing me. I received $200,000 clear, a fortune to me, my freedom. Jason met Brittany 6 years ago at the gym. She is a personal trainer, skinny as a rail, always perfectly made up, impeccable nails, designer clothes. From the first day, I knew something was not right. The way she looked at my apartment when they came to dinner for the first time, like she was taking inventory. The way she asked, "So you live alone in this big place?" with that smile that never reached her eyes. My sister Brenda, my twin, my other half, told me clearly, "That woman does not love you, Linda. She wants to strip you dry." But I stayed silent because Jason was in love, because I had not seen him so happy in years. Sometimes we mothers are the best blind people in the world. We bandage our own eyes because seeing the truth about who we raised hurts more than any lie they could tell us. I wanted his happiness so much, I was willing to pay for it with my own dignity. They got married 4 years ago, an expensive wedding that I helped pay for with $20,000. Brittany wanted everything. The fanciest hall, the imported dress, flowers flown in from who knows where. I paid without complaining, thinking it was my only way to buy a little affection, a little space in their life. But after the wedding, everything changed. The visits got spaced out. Sunday family dinners became once a month, then every 2 months. Brittany always had excuses. "Oh, Mom, we have commitments. We have to see my parents. Jason is tired." And Jason, my Jason, started looking at me differently, with haste, with annoyance, as if I were a burden. 3 months ago, I installed cameras in my apartment. I am not stupid. I am not a decrepit old woman who understands nothing. Brittany had a copy of the keys, because just in case something happens to you, Mom, we need to be able to get in. And I started noticing things were missing. Small things at first. A French perfume. Brenda had given me a set of new sheets, my husband's watch. Then bigger things. A painting from the living room. Antique dishes that belonged to my grandmother. I hired a technician who came disguised as a gas inspector and installed 4 hidden cameras in the living room, in my bedroom, in the kitchen, in the hallway. I could see everything from my phone, and I saw. My God, how I saw. I saw Brittany coming in with her friend when I was at the doctor, laughing at my furniture, saying, "As soon as the old lady kicks the bucket, we sell this sty and buy something in the suburbs." I saw Jason going through my papers, my bank statements. I saw the two of them arguing about how much longer they were going to have to put up with me. I saw Brittany trying on my clothes, making fun of my old lady dresses, throwing them on the floor. I saw things a mother should never see from her own son, but I kept quiet. I stored all that pain like poison in my chest. I waited. And then 3 days ago, Brenda died, my twin sister. My other half, a massive heart attack at 61. She was in Ohio where she lived with her daughter. They called me at 5 in the morning. I felt like my soul was being ripped out. I took the first bus. I was at the wake, at the burial. Jason could not go because he had a work commitment he could not cancel. Brittany did not even call to offer condolences. I came back yesterday from Ohio, destroyed, empty. I locked myself in my apartment to cry alone, the way old women cry when they no longer matter to anyone. The details of my sister Brenda were already part of a closed cycle. But what came next surprised me. Now I was there in that freezing office with the certainty that my daughter-in-law had tried to kill me on paper, bury me alive, and steal everything I had worked for during 61 years. "What do I do?" I asked the manager with a thread of a voice. "What can I do?" Mr. Henderson looked at me with something that could be respect or could be fear. "You can file a report, Mrs. Miller. This is a very serious crime. Document forgery, attempted fraud. Your daughter-in-law could go to jail. Jail. Brittany in jail. And Jason? What would happen to my Jason?" My hands stopped trembling. Something hardened inside my chest. Something cold and sharp like a knife made of ice. "No," I said slowly. "Not yet. I want you to give me 48 hours. 48 hours? I want to do something first. I need them to know that I know, but in my own way." I took out my cell phone with fingers that no longer shook. I dialed my son's number. It rang once, twice. He answered with that rushed voice he used with me lately. "Mom, I am busy. What is it?" "Jason, my love," I said with the sweetest voice I could manufacture. I need you to come to the bank right now, with Brittany, both of you together. It is urgent. I have a special inheritance I want to give you, something from your Aunt Brenda." There was a silence. Then greed did its work. "An inheritance? From Aunt Brenda?" "Yes, my love. But you both have to come, now. The manager is waiting for us." "Okay, Mom. We will be there in 20 minutes. He hung up without saying goodbye. I put the phone in my purse and looked at Mr. Henderson. "They are coming," I said, and then I sat there in that cold leather chair with the air conditioning freezing my back, waiting for my son and the woman who had tried to bury me to arrive, waiting with my heart broken into 1,000 pieces, but with my head, for the first time in years, completely clear. I did not know what was going to happen when I saw them walk through that door. I did not know if I was going to be able to stand up. I did not know if my voice was going to come out, or if I was going to stay mute like a fool. I only knew that my sister Brenda, my twin, my eternal protector, had unknowingly given me the key to discover the truth, and that I, Linda Miller, 61 years old, widow, mother, former shopkeeper, neighborhood woman with working hands, was not going to let them bury me alive, even if that meant I had to bury the heart that for 35 years had beaten only for my son, myself. While I waited in that office with the wall clock marking every second like a sentence, my mind went to the past on its own, to the memories that hurt the most when one discovers that perhaps everything was a lie. Memory is a traitor. It shows you the golden moments, the smiles, the hugs, and it hides the cracks. I was sitting there, replaying the highlight reel of my life, desperately looking for the moment where I went wrong. Where did I turn my sweet boy into a monster? Jason was born on March 23rd, after 11 hours of labor. He weighed 8 pounds, 6 ounces. He had his father's eyes and my upturned nose. When they put him in my arms, still with that wrinkled newborn face, I swore I was going to protect him from everything that he would never lack. Anything that he would have, everything I did not have. And I kept that promise, maybe too well. When Jason was 2 years old, Bob had an accident at the shop. A machine crushed 3 fingers on his left hand. He was out of work for 6 months. I pulled double shifts at the fabric store. I opened at 7 in the morning and closed at 9 at night. Jason stayed in the playpen behind the counter, playing with empty thread spools I gave him so he would not cry. The customers told me, "Oh, Linda, that boy is an angel. He does not make a sound." And I smiled with pride, although inside I was dying of exhaustion, with swollen legs and a broken back. But it made me happy because he was my son, because that is what a mother is for. When he started elementary school, I got up for 6 years at 5:30 in the morning to make him breakfast, iron his uniform, pack his lunch. Bob left early for the shop, and I stayed alone with that responsibility. I never complained. I never told Jason, "Look at everything I do for you." I did it because it was my obligation, my joy, my purpose. But when did it all start to twist? When did I unknowingly plant the seeds of this disaster? Maybe it was when Jason was 9 and asked for an expensive bicycle, the kind with gears the rich kids used. Bob told me, "We can't, Linda. That is our food money for a whole month." But I saw Jason's sad little face and I could not stand it. I worked a whole month doing clothing alterations at night after closing the store. I hemmed pants, fixed dresses, darned socks until 2 in the morning. My fingers bled from pricking myself with the needle so much. But I gathered the money and bought him the bike. Jason was happy for 2 weeks. Then the bike ended up in the backyard, rusting in the rain, forgotten. I should have seen the sign. I should have understood I was raising a son who expected me to solve everything, to give him everything without effort on his part. But a mother does not see those things. A mother only sees love. When high school started, Jason wanted brand name sneakers. All his classmates wore them, he told me. "Mom, if I do not have those sneakers, they will make fun of me. They will say I am poor." And I, who had worn canvas shoes until I was 15, who knew what it was to go to school with patched clothes, did not want my son to go through that. I sold the gold jewelry Bob had given me for our anniversary. A ring, a thin chain, some small earrings. They were not worth much, but it was enough for the sneakers. Bob got mad at me. "You are teaching him wrong, Linda. You are teaching him that everything is obtained without sacrifice." We argued that night. I cried in the kitchen while washing dishes, defending my son, saying Bob did not understand the world had changed. The kids needed things to not feel less than. Now, sitting in that bank office, I asked myself if Bob had been right. If I, with my blind love, had raised a man who believed he deserved everything without giving anything in return. Jason's teenage years were hard. He hung out with kids I did not like. He started coming home late, answering back. Once I told him he could not go out because he had to study for an exam, and he yelled at me, "You don't boss me around, old lady." I froze. Bob got up from the table and grabbed him by the arm, hard. "You do not talk to your mother like that. Apologize to her right now." Jason apologized with tears in his eyes. And I hugged him and told him I forgave him, that it was okay that teenagers are like that. But Bob did not speak to me for 2 days. He said I was too soft, that I was raising a disrespectful brat. When it was time for college, Jason wanted to go to a private one. "State schools are a mess, Mom. I want to study seriously." The tuition was incredibly expensive. Bob and I could not afford it. But I was not going to let my son lose his opportunity. I started working extra shifts on Saturdays, opening the store when no one else was open. I stopped buying clothes, going to the hairdresser, treating myself to anything. Everything was for Jason's tuition. Everything was so my son could be somebody. And he did it. He graduated with a degree in business administration. The day of his graduation, I cried like a fool. I was so proud. Bob was proud too, even though he was already sick, even though he was already coughing that horrible cough that we later found out was the cancer eating him from the inside. Jason got a job quickly at a logistics company. He started earning well. He bought a used car, then a better one. He moved to an apartment in Lincoln Park with 2 roommates. He came to visit me on Sundays. He brought donuts. He told me about his job. I thought everything had been worth it, that my sacrifices had borne fruit. Then Bob died, and I was left alone, and Jason promised he would never abandon me. "Relax, Mom," he told me, hugging me at the cemetery on that horrible day of cold wind and gray sky. "I will always be here for you. You are the most important thing in my life." I believed him. I clung to that promise like a castaway to a plank. For 2 years he was present. He came often. He went with me to the doctor. He helped me with the paperwork for the store. And I felt accompanied, less alone in that apartment that had become too big and too silent. Until she appeared, Brittany. With her gym body, her dyed blonde hair, her perfect nails that had never scrubbed a floor or washed a dish. The first time she came to dinner, she arrived late. Jason was nervous, making excuses for her. "It is just that a class ran long, Mom." When she finally arrived, she did not even give me a kiss, just a cold smile. "Hi, Linda." She looked me up and down with those blue eyes that looked like a calculator. She looked at my apartment, my furniture, the lace tablecloth my mother had embroidered, the plates from the old set we used on Sundays. She did not say anything, but I saw the contempt. I saw it clearly. During dinner, Brittany barely touched the food. "I am on a diet, Linda. I have to watch my figure. You know how it is with personal training." I had made chicken parmesan, Jason's favorite dish since he was a boy. He ate fast, without enthusiasm, as if in a hurry to leave. Before, he used to ask for seconds, ask for more bread, lick his fingers. That night, he left half of it. Brenda, my sister who had come from Ohio to meet Jason's girlfriend, looked at me from the other side of the table with warning eyes. Later, when they left, she told me, "Linda, that woman is bad news. She has snake eyes. Get your son away from her." But I got angry with Brenda. I told her she was exaggerating, that Brittany was just modern, different from us, that she came from another social class. Brenda shook her head and left without saying more. That argument distanced us for months. I wish I had listened to her. I wish I had seen what Brenda saw. Things got worse after the wedding. I helped with $20,000 for that ridiculous wedding full of people I did not know, with a dress that cost the same as a used car. Brittany sat me at a table in the back, far from the head table. It is just protocol, Linda, do you understand? I did not understand anything, only that I felt like an intruder at my own son's wedding. Jason was so happy that day. He did not realize I sat alone for 3 hours while he danced and laughed with her family. My sister Brenda sat with me. She squeezed my hand. Come live in Ohio with me, Linda. They do not need you here anymore. But I refused. I was not going to abandon my son. I could not. After the wedding, the visits became rare. First it was once a week, then every 2 weeks, then once a month. Always with excuses. We are busy, Mom. Brittany has a lot of work. We have to see the in-laws. And when they came, Brittany spent the whole time glued to her cell phone, not talking to me, making faces of boredom. Jason was changed too. He spoke to me little, listened to me less. Once I mentioned my knees hurt a lot, that the doctor told me I needed an operation. Jason looked at Brittany and she said, "Oh, Linda, we all have aches and pains. I have back pain too, and I don't go around complaining." Jason said nothing. He did not defend me. He stayed silent like a coward. I stayed silent too. I swallowed the humiliation. Because he was my son, and a mother always forgives. Until I started noticing things missing from my house. The smell of the manager's coffee brought me back to the present. I looked up. Mr. Henderson was looking at me with concern. "Are you okay, Mrs. Miller?" Yes, I lied. I am fine. At that moment, my phone vibrated. A message from Jason. "Mom, we are 5 minutes away. Brittany is a little nervous." She says, "Why so much mystery with this inheritance? How much money are we talking about?" I read the message twice. Not a, "How are you, Mom?" Not a, "How was the trip from Aunt Brenda's funeral?" Just, "How much money are we talking about?" My fingers trembled over the keyboard. I was going to answer something, anything, but then another message arrived. This one was from Brittany. She had added me to a WhatsApp group months ago, one called The Miller Family, although they never spoke to me there. But this time the message was not to the group, it was direct to me. And it said, "Linda, I hope this inheritance is for real and not one of your dramatic old lady exaggerations. Jason and I have important projects and we need money now. So I hope your sister was more generous than you are." I read it 3 times. Each word was like a dagger. Dramatic old lady. I showed the message to Mr. Henderson without saying anything. He read it and pressed his lips together. "Mrs. Miller, are you sure you want to go through with this? We can call the police right now." I put the phone in my purse and settled into the chair. Something inside me had broken permanently, but something else had hardened like steel. "I am sure," I said. "I want them to walk in and see me alive. I want to see their faces." Outside, the elevator was heard, steps approaching down the hall, voices, my son's voice, and the voice of the woman who had tried to bury me. The office door opened, and Jason walked in. My son, 35 years old, wearing the gray blazer I had given him for his birthday, his hair slicked back the way she liked it. He entered fast, with that anxiety I knew well, the same he had as a boy, waiting for his Christmas present. Behind came Brittany's expensive leather purse, high heels clicking against the office floor, that sweet perfume that always gave me a headache. She was wearing sunglasses even though we were inside, and when she saw me sitting there next to the manager, she froze in the doorframe. Her glasses fell from her hands. The sound of the plastic hitting the floor was like a gunshot in the silence of that office. Jason looked at me, not understanding. "Mom? What are you doing here?" "What am I doing here?" I repeated slowly. My voice sounded strange, as if it came from another person. "I am at my bank, in my office, with my manager, because this is my account." Brittany had turned white, the color of the wall. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. She took a step back, as if wanting to escape, but Jason grabbed her arm, not realizing anything yet. "I don't understand," said my son. "You told me you came for an inheritance from Aunt Brenda. That we both had to come? What is happening?" Mr. Henderson stood up. He was a tall man, almost 60, of the kind who still believe in keeping your word and doing things right. He looked at Brittany with a coldness that even I felt. "Mrs. Brittany, perhaps you can explain to us what is happening. Why were you at this bank less than 2 hours ago attempting to withdraw $200,000 from Mrs. Linda Miller's account?" The silence that followed was so heavy, it was hard to breathe. Jason let go of Brittany's arm and looked at her as if seeing her for the first time. "What is he saying?" asked Jason. "There has to be a mistake. Brittany was at the gym this morning. She was teaching classes." "She was not at the gym," said Mr. Henderson calmly. "She was sitting exactly where you are now, with a death certificate indicating that Mrs. Linda had passed away yesterday. She tried to present herself as the direct heir." I saw Jason's face change color from normal pink to red, then to a sickly pale. He turned to Brittany with huge eyes. "That is not true. Tell him it isn't true." Brittany opened her mouth, closed it. Her eyes moved from Jason to me, from me to the manager like a cornered animal looking for an exit. And then she did what liars do when they get caught. She attacked. "This is a terrible misunderstanding," she screamed with a shrill voice. "I came to the bank because your mom asked me to come. She called me early this morning, all confused, saying she needed help with some papers that she didn't understand, that she was dizzy from her meds. I came to help her. Liar, perfect, beautiful liar." Jason looked at me with hope, with desperation, wanting to believe her, wanting me to confirm that version that would save us all from the horrible truth. "Is that true, Mom? Did you call her?" And there it was, the moment to choose. I could lie, I could soften it, I could do what I had done for 61 years, swallow my pain so others would be calm, so my son would not suffer, to maintain family peace, even if that peace was a rotten lie. But something inside me said, "Enough." "No," I said with a clear voice. "I did not call her. I was in Ohio at my sister's funeral. Your aunt, remember? The one who died 3 days ago and you could not go to say goodbye to because you had work?" Mr. Henderson placed a folder on the desk. He opened it with precise movements. "These are the records from the bank's security cameras. Mrs. Brittany arriving at 10:43 in the morning, alone. Here she is presenting documents. Here is the death certificate dated yesterday, January 21st. Here she is requesting access to account number 3724915. Mrs. Linda's account. The photos were there, Brittany in black and white. So clear, there was no way to deny it." Jason looked at them as if hypnotized. "But," his voice broke, "but Mom is alive. Aunt Brenda is the one who died. How could you—" "We are twins," I said, before Brittany could invent another lie. "Identical. The certificate says Brenda Miller." But she presented it as if it were me, as Linda Miller, claiming my identity. Mr. Henderson nodded. "The certificate was digitally altered, not very well, by the way. That is why I noticed immediately and called Mrs. Linda to verify." Jason collapsed into a chair. He had his head in his hands. Brittany remained standing, trembling now, with that perfect mask of makeup cracking. "There is more," I said, and my voice sounded so cold I scared myself. "Mr. Henderson, please show my son the movements on my credit card from the last 5 days." The manager took out other papers. He put them in front of Jason. $15,000 in online purchases. Clothes, purses, shoes, beauty products, an aesthetic treatment, 2 plane tickets to Cancun, all bought between January 17th and 22nd. While Mrs. Linda was in Ohio mourning her dead sister, each word was a stab. I saw how Jason read the papers, how his eyes moved over the lines, over the numbers, over the dates. I saw his world falling apart, just like mine. "Brittany," he said with a hoarse voice, "Brittany, please tell me this has an explanation." She started to cry, perfect tears that did not ruin her mascara, actress tears. "Jason, baby, I did it for us, for our future. Your mom has $200,000 sitting there rotting while we can't even buy a condo. It is unfair. She is old. She doesn't need it. We are young. We have dreams. We have plans. The words hit me like stones. She is old? She doesn't need it? As if for being 61 years old, I was already dead. I no longer deserved anything. I no longer had a right to my own life. Jason looked at her as if he did not know her. You tried to rob my mom using my dead aunt's certificate? It is not stealing. It was going to be ours someday anyway. I just sped things up. Your mom has no one else but you. All that is going to be yours when she dies. She spoke of my death like someone talking about the weather, naturally, with haste almost, as if I were a pending errand. I stood up slowly. My knees hurt, but I did not care. I looked at that woman who had tried to bury me, who had spent my money while I cried for my sister, who had spoken of my death like someone waiting for a package in the mail. Get out of here, I said with a low but firm voice. Get out of this office, now. Brittany looked at me with pure hate. There were no longer tears, only rage. You are to blame for everything, she spat at me. You overprotected your son so much, you made him useless. He doesn't know how to do anything alone, always running to mommy. Always I have to see my mom. What will my mom say? He's a 35-year-old man, but you have him clutched like he is still a baby. The words burned me because they had some truth. Maybe I had overprotected him. Maybe I had raised a son who expected everything to fall from the sky. But that was no excuse for what she had done. Get out, I repeated, before I call the police. Call them, screamed Brittany. Let's see if you have the guts, because if you put me in jail, I am taking your son with me. He knew everything. He told me to do it. The world stopped. I looked at Jason, my son, my only reason for living for 35 years. I expected him to say no, that it was a lie, that he would never do something like that. But Jason said nothing. He just lowered his head and started to cry silently, with his shoulders shaking. And there I knew everything. My son had known, maybe not the details, maybe not the exact plan, but he had known she was going to do something, and he had not defended me. He had not protected me. He had left me alone facing the wolves. Something broke inside my chest, something that had no name. It was worse than when Bob died, worse than when Brenda died, because this was a different death, the death of the greatest illusion of my life, that my son loved me. Go away, I said, both of you now. Jason lifted his face. His eyes were red, his nose running. He looked like a child. My child. Mom, forgive me. I didn't want to. Things got out of hand. We had debts, so many debts. Brittany lost her job last month, and you thought you could kill me on paper? You thought you could steal everything I worked for during 60 years? It wasn't going to be stealing. Someday it was going to be mine. I am your only son. Not anymore, I said. And the words came out alone, from a cold, dark place I didn't know I had inside. You are no longer my son. Jason stood up, stumbling. He reached his hands toward me like he had done as a boy when he was scared, when he needed me to console him. Don't say that, Mom. Please, I love you. You are my mom. Do you know what I saw on the cameras in my house? I said suddenly. I hadn't planned to say it, but I couldn't stop now. I know you came in when I wasn't there. I know you stole my things. I know you made fun of me, of my furniture, of my clothes. I saw you. Everything is recorded. Brittany opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Jason turned even paler. You two planning what to do with me, I continued, talking about nursing homes, about how much you could get selling my apartment, about how long it would take for me to lose my mind if you stressed me enough. I let the accusation hang in the air. The nursing home threat, the psychological torture. I saw the guilt flash across his face. Mr. Henderson cleared his throat. Mrs. Miller, if there is evidence of abuse or conspiracy to harm, this is much more serious. We are talking about criminal intent. I don't have evidence of that, I admitted. Only the mockery, the thefts, the conversations about committing me. Jason dropped to his knees, literally on his knees in front of me like when he was little and had broken something, and begged for forgiveness. Mom, please forgive me. We will change. I will change. Brittany will change. I swear to you, on Dad's memory. Hearing Bob's name in his mouth made me sick. Bob, who had tried to teach him values, respect, work. Bob, who had warned me I was raising him wrong, and I didn't listen. Your dad would be dead of shame, I said. And I am dead while alive, because I discovered my only son is a stranger. I turned to Mr. Henderson. What do I need to do to protect my money? We can block all additional cards immediately, change the passwords, file a formal report for the record. And I recommend you change your will. Do it all I said, now. Mom, no, begged Jason from the floor. Don't do this. We are family. I bent down with difficulty, my knees protesting, until I was at his level. I looked him in the eyes, those brown eyes that were just like Bob's. Family does not rob you, I said slowly. Family does not bury you while you are alive. Family does not count the days until you die. You are no longer my family. And if you come near me, my house, or my money again, I will put you both in jail. I stood up with help from the desk. Mr. Henderson handed me my purse. The papers will be ready tomorrow, Mrs. Miller. Are you going to file the police report? I looked at Jason, still kneeling, crying like he hadn't cried since he was a child. I looked at Brittany with her expensive clothes bought with my money, with her actress face crumbling. Not yet, I said. But keep all the documentation, the cameras, the records, everything. If they bother me again, then I will report them. It was my last piece of mercy, my last trace of a mother. I left that office without looking back. I walked down the bank hallway with my back straight, even though my whole body hurt. I went out to the street. It was 4 p.m. The January wind hit my face and made me cry. Or maybe I was already crying and hadn't realized. I walked 4 blocks to a park. I sat on a bench under a tree, and there alone, with the noise of the buses and kids playing, I made a decision. I was going to sell the apartment. I was going to change the will. I was going to go far away. And if I died alone, if I died without family, at least I was going to die with dignity, with my money intact, with my name clean. I was no longer the Linda who let herself be stepped on. I was no longer the mother who forgave everything. I took out my phone and called a number I had saved months ago but never dared to use. A friend from the fabric shop, Carol, who had moved to Florida after becoming a widow. She always told me, "Come live here with me, Linda. The ocean cures everything." She answered on the second ring. "Carol, it's Linda. Do you still have room for me?" Carol said yes without asking questions. "Come whenever you want, Linda. I have a room with an ocean view waiting for you." I hung up the phone and stayed sitting on that park bench, watching the sun start to set, painting the sky orange. For the first time in 3 days, I felt something resembling peace. Or maybe it was exhaustion. I didn't know how to distinguish anymore. That night when I got to my apartment, I saw it with different eyes. The walls I had painted with Bob 20 years ago, the tile floor we had chosen together, the old but clean furniture, cared for, full of history, everything Brittany had despised, everything she had called a sty. My home, my life, my past, and I decided it was no longer going to be my future. The next morning at 8 sharp, I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, but Mr. Sterling, an older man who had been a customer of the fabric shop for years. His wife bought fabrics to make tablecloths and always paid cash, always treated me with respect. "Mr. Sterling, I am Linda Miller. I need to change my will urgently." We met that same afternoon in his office, a small and tidy place. I told him everything. I didn't hold anything back. The fake death certificate, the purchases with my card, the cameras in my house, the conversations I had heard. He listened in silence, taking notes with neat handwriting in an old notebook. When I finished, he took off his glasses and looked at me with sadness. "Linda, what you are telling me is a serious crime. You should file a report. I know," I said, "but he is my son. If I report him, he will have a record. He will lose his job. His life will be destroyed. His life is already destroyed, Linda, by his own decisions. He was right, but there was still a part of me, small and stubborn like a scar, that couldn't take that final step. I want to protect my assets, I said instead. I want it so that if something happens to me, nothing goes to them. Mr. Sterling nodded. Do you have other relatives? Someone trustworthy? I thought of Brenda, my twin sister, already dead. Of her daughter, my niece Jennifer, who lived in Ohio with her 2 kids. Jennifer had always been affectionate with me. She always called me for my birthday, always sent photos of the kids. My niece, I said, Jennifer. And I want to leave a part for a foundation for abandoned seniors, if something like that exists. It exists, confirmed Mr. Sterling, and it is a beautiful decision. We drafted the will right there. I left the apartment and half the money to Jennifer. The other half of the money for the Foundation for Senior Care, which helps older people in situations of family abandonment. For Jason, nothing. $0. 0 properties. Only a letter that Mr. Sterling would keep to deliver to him if I died, explaining why. I signed the papers with a shaking but sure hand. It was the first time in my life I made such a big decision without consulting anyone, without asking permission, without thinking of others' feelings first. It is done, said Mr. Sterling. This is registered and protected. No one can change it except you. I left his office feeling 20 pounds lighter. The next day, I went to a real estate agency, the same one where I had bought this apartment with Bob 30 years ago. The owner, Mr. Higgins, was already an older man, almost 70, but still working. Linda, what brings you here? I want to sell my apartment, Mr. Higgins, fast, at the best price you can get, but fast. He raised his eyebrows. Did something happen? Are you okay? I am fine. I lied. I just need a change. I want to go to the coast. Mr. Higgins looked at me with those eyes that had seen it all. Problems with family? I didn't answer, but my silence was answer enough. Okay, he said. I will send you my best agent. It is a 2-bedroom apartment in a good area, well maintained. We will sell it in less than a month. Thank you, Mr. Higgins. That night, while I prepared dinner for myself alone, my cell phone started ringing. It was Jason. Again. He had been calling me nonstop for 2 days, 23 missed calls, 16 messages. At first they were pleas. Mom, please pick up. We have to talk. Forgive me. Then they became more desperate. Mom, I am desperate. Brittany left. She left me alone. I need you. Now they were almost hysterical. Mom, they are going to fire me from work. Human Resources found out what happened. Please help me. I didn't answer any of them. I blocked his number. I blocked Brittany's too. Silence was my most powerful weapon. The next week, Mr. Higgins' agent brought a young couple who wanted to see the apartment. They had a 6-month-old baby in a stroller. The girl looked at everything with bright eyes. It is beautiful. It has so much light. It is perfect for us. They accepted the offer, closing in 20 days. I was going to leave with $450,000 in my pocket, double what I had in the bank, enough to live quietly the rest of my days without depending on anyone. I started packing my things, boxes and more boxes, clothes I no longer wore, old books, photos of Jason when he was a boy. Those photos hurt more than anything. The boy at his communion with his toothless smile, the teenager in his first suit, the young graduate with his degree. At what moment had that good boy turned into the man who tried to bury me? I put the photos in a separate box. I couldn't throw them away, but I couldn't have them in sight either. One afternoon, while I was wrapping my grandmother's plates in newspaper, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole and my blood froze. It was Jason. He was alone, without Brittany. He had a beard of several days, wrinkled clothes, swollen eyes. He looked 10 years older. I didn't open the door. Mom, I know you are there, he said with a hoarse voice. I saw the light. Please let me in. 5 minutes, I beg you. I stayed on the other side of the door with my heart beating in my chest like a drum. Mom, I lost my job. They fired me. Brittany left me. She went with a guy she met at the gym. She took all her things and left me. The debts. I have to leave the apartment because I can't pay the rent. I have nowhere to go." Every word was a dagger, but I didn't open. I couldn't open. "I am left with nothing, Mom. No job, no partner, no money, no home. You are the only thing I have left." I rested my forehead against the door. I took a deep breath, and then I spoke for the first time in 2 weeks. "I was left with nothing too, Jason. I was left without a son." "Don't say that. I am still your son. A son does not do what you did to me." "It was Brittany. She convinced me. I didn't want to." "Lie," I said with a tired voice. "You knew. You agreed. In the recordings from my house, I heard you say I was a hindrance, that the sooner I died, the better." Silence on the other side of the door, a silence that confirmed everything. "I was angry that day," he said finally. "I had argued with Brittany. I didn't mean it seriously. Do you know how many times I was angry with you and never said I hoped you died? Do you know how many times I wanted to tell you that you were ungrateful, inconsiderate, selfish, and I kept quiet because you were my son? Because a mother does not say those things. A mother swallows all the pain so her son is okay." I heard him cry on the other side of the door, that crying of a man that sounds like a wounded animal. "Forgive me, Mom, please. I am going to change, I swear. I will get a job. I will pay back every dollar Brittany spent. I will be the son you deserve. Give me a chance." The part of me that had been a mother for 35 years wanted to open that door, wanted to hug him, console him, tell him everything was going to be okay, that I was going to help him, as always. But the new part of me, the one born in that bank office, the one who had signed the new will, the one who had sold the apartment, that part said no more. "Go away, Jason," I said. "I am not going to open, and if you come back, I will call the police. Mom, call Brittany's family, call your friends, call whoever you want, but don't call me anymore." And where am I going to go? That question I had heard thousands of times when he was a boy. "Mom, where are my clothes? Mom, what is there to eat? Mom, can you give me money?" Always expecting me to solve everything, that I be his magic solution. I don't know, Jason, and it is not my problem. The hardest words I said in my life. I heard him hit the door with desperation. "Mom, please don't do this to me. You can't abandon me." That was when something broke definitively in my chest. I turned around and yelled at that closed door with all the accumulated fury of years. That I can't abandon you? Me. You abandoned me first. When you married that woman and pushed me aside, when you stopped visiting me, when you allowed her to treat me like trash, when you planned to rob me, when you spoke of my death as if it were a blessing, you abandoned me, Jason, and now you come crying because you are alone. Well, welcome to the club. I am alone too. The difference is, I have no one to blame but myself for raising you like that. The silence on the other side was absolute. Then I heard steps moving away. The elevator. The building door closing. I slid down the door until I was sitting on the floor, and there I cried. I cried for everything. For Bob, who wasn't there to see this. For Brenda, who had been right, and I didn't listen. For the son I raised who no longer existed. For the mother I was and could no longer be. I cried until I had no more tears. 3 days later, a neighbor knocked on my door, Mrs. Higgins from the 5th floor, a lady of almost 80 who always greeted me with affection. "Linda, I need to speak with you." I let her in. I served her tea. She looked at me with worried eyes. "Your son was in the lobby yesterday. He told the superintendent that you kicked him out of your life, that you won't open the door, that he is not to blame for anything, that you are sick in the head, that you are senile, that you should be committed." The words hit me like punches. He was still lying, still playing the victim, still blaming me. "I am not senile, Mrs. Higgins," I said calmly. "I am more lucid than ever, and I have my reasons for not wanting to see him." She squeezed my hand. "I believe you, dear. I have known him since he was a boy. He was always a spoiled kid. And when he grew up, he didn't improve. But there is something else you have to know. What is it? He is telling the whole building that you deny him help, that you are a bad mother, that you have $200,000 in the bank and give him nothing while he sleeps on the street. Some neighbors believe him. They say you are hard-hearted. I felt humiliation rising up my throat like bile. It was the last attack, the last attempt to control me. If he couldn't have my money, he was going to have my reputation, my dignity, my peace. Thank you for telling me, Mrs. Higgins. When she left, I made a final decision. The next day, I taped a letter on the building's bulletin board. I wrote it by hand, with clear writing so everyone would see it. Dear neighbors, I'm addressing you to clarify a situation that is generating rumors. It is true that my son Jason and I are estranged, not by my whim, but because he and his wife attempted to pass themselves off as my heirs using the death certificate of my deceased twin sister in order to steal money from my bank account. This happened 2 weeks ago, and there is banking and legal documentation proving it. Furthermore, his wife spent $15,000 on my credit card without my authorization while I was at my sister's funeral. I am not mentally ill. I am not senile. I am defending my dignity and my assets that I worked 60 years to obtain. If my son tells you another version, I ask you please do not believe him. And if you knock on my door to intercede for him, I will not open. Thank you for understanding. Linda Miller. I taped the letter with Scotch tape and left. I didn't care what they said. I no longer cared about anything except getting out of there with what was mine intact. That same afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered by mistake. It was Brittany. Mrs. Linda? Her voice sounded different, scared, small. What do you want? I asked coldly. I want to ask for forgiveness. I know what I did was horrible, but I was desperate. I lost my job. I had debts. Jason didn't earn enough. I saw all that money of yours saved, and I thought you didn't need it. You thought wrong. I know. And now I am paying the consequences. Jason blames me for everything. He kicked me out. I have nowhere to live. My parents don't want to help me because they are ashamed. And you call me the woman you tried to bury? A silence. Then, with a calculating voice, she said, "You are a good person, Mrs. Linda. You always were. I know deep down you still have a heart. We could make a deal. I tell you everything Jason planned to do with you, things you can't even imagine. And you give me some money to start over." I laughed, a bitter, dry laugh, without humor. "Are you blackmailing me?" "No, ma'am. I am offering valuable information." "I am not interested, and if you call again, I will report you for harassment. Bye, Brittany." I hung up, blocked the number, and kept packing my things. The move was scheduled for the following Monday, only 4 days left to leave this life and start another. But Jason had one last ace up his sleeve, and he played it Sunday night when he appeared at my apartment door, accompanied by someone I did not expect. A social worker. I looked through the peephole and couldn't believe it. Jason was there, looking better than the last time, shaved, clean clothes. Next to him was a woman, about 40, with a clipboard in hand and an ID hanging from her neck. Adult Protective Services, the badge said. I froze. This was new. This was dangerous. I opened the door only with the chain on. "Good evening, ma'am," said the woman with a professional voice. "I am Monica Perkins from Adult Protective Services. We received a report from your son regarding your mental health status and your capacity to make decisions. Can we come in?" Jason looked at me from behind with eyes that wanted to seem worried, but I saw full of calculation. This was his last attempt. If they declared me incompetent, if he managed to get me committed or get a judge to appoint a guardian, he could control my money. He could sell my apartment. He could do whatever he wanted with me. "No," I said with a firm voice, "you cannot come in. I do not have any mental health problem." Ms. Perkins smiled with that reassuring smile they use with old people. I understand you might feel invaded, Miss Miller, but your son says you are making erratic decisions, that you sold your home impulsively, that you cut contact with your only family, that you posted a letter in the building with grave accusations, that you refuse to receive help. These are signs of cognitive decline, or are they signs of a woman defending herself from a son who tried to rob her? I responded, I have banking documentation, video recordings, and a lawyer who can confirm everything. I am not crazy. I am protecting my assets from a criminal. Jason took a step forward. Mom, please let the doctor in. I just want to help you. You don't want to help me. You want to control me. Ms. Perkins took out a notebook. Mrs. Miller, could you tell me what day it is? Sunday, January 26th, 2026. Do you know your full address? 1220 West Norwood Avenue, apartment 4B, Chicago. Do you know how old you are? 61. I just turned it on January 8th. Are you taking any medication? For pressure, 1 pill a day, lisinopril, 10 milligrams. And for cholesterol, atorvastatin, 20 milligrams. I have the boxes here if you want to see them. The social worker looked at me with different eyes now. Eyes that were beginning to understand she was not in front of a senile old woman. Mrs. Miller, why are you selling your apartment? Because I want to move to Clearwater with a friend who was widowed 2 years ago. I want to live near the ocean, where I always dreamed of living. I am 61, not 90. I can still make my own decisions. And why did you cut contact with your son? I took a deep breath. Because my son and his wife tried to steal $200,000 using the death certificate of my twin sister, who had just passed away. There is a bank record of this. The manager of the bank, Mr. Henderson, can confirm it. They also spent $15,000 on my card without my authorization. Everything is documented. If you want, I can give you the number of my lawyer, Mr. Sterling. The social worker's face changed completely. She turned to Jason with a hard expression. Is this true? It was a misunderstanding, stammered Jason. Brittany, my ex-wife, Is there banking documentation of what your mother says? Yes, but... Then this is not a case of cognitive decline. This is a family conflict over money. Ms. Perkins closed her notebook with a sharp snap. Mrs. Miller, you are completely lucid. You have the right to sell your property to move wherever you want and to cut contact with whomever you wish. Your son has no right to report you for protecting your assets. She turned to Jason coldly. Young man, filing false reports with Adult Protective Services is a crime. I suggest you do not do it again, or I will have to file a report against you. Jason turned red, then white. But I just wanted... You wanted to access your mother's money using the state as a tool. That is abuse of public resources. Good night. Ms. Perkins gave me a card through the crack in the door. If he bothers you again, Mrs. Miller, call me. I will leave a record of this visit. You are protected. She went toward the elevator. Jason stayed standing in front of my door, defeated, shoulders slumped. Happy? I asked him. You wanted them to commit me? You wanted them to declare me crazy so you could handle my money? I just wanted you to see reason. I am the one with reason, Jason. I always had it. The one who lost their reason was you, the day you decided your mother was an obstacle. I closed the door in his face, this time for good. Monday morning, the moving truck arrived. 2 young guys, hard workers who wrapped my furniture with care, who carried my boxes without breaking anything. Mrs. Higgins came down to say goodbye with tears in her eyes. You will be better off there, Linda. Here you only have bad memories left. She was right. The trip to Clearwater took 2 days driving, but I flew. I hired a car service because I didn't want to travel by bus with all my exhaustion. Wait, no, I flew. The flight took 3 hours. I saw Chicago getting left behind with its gray buildings, its noise, its rush. I saw the coast appear, the water, the sky, bigger. Carol was waiting for me at the door of her house. A little 2-story house, 4 blocks from the beach, painted white and blue. She had shorter hair than the last time I saw her, all white now, and she had gained a little weight. But her smile was the same as always. Linda, you made it! We hugged like we hadn't hugged in years, and there, in my friend's arms, I cried again. But this time, they weren't tears of pain. They were of relief. "It's over," Carol told me, stroking my back. "It's all over. You are safe here." My room had a big window that looked out on the garden. The walls were a soft yellow that made everything seem brighter. The bed had a floral quilt and smelled like lavender. It was simple. It was small. It was perfect. "Tomorrow we go to the beach," said Carol. "It's been years since you've gone, right? Since before Bob died. Well, tomorrow we go, and you will see how the ocean cures the soul." That night, I slept without pills for the first time in weeks. The distant sound of the waves was better than any medicine. The first days in Clearwater were strange. I woke up and didn't know where I was. I looked for my things and couldn't find them. I missed my apartment, my routines, my neighborhood. But I didn't miss Jason, and that hurt me in a different way, knowing I didn't miss my own son. Carol took me walking on the beach. I hadn't stepped on sand in almost 10 years. My knees hurt, but I kept walking. The cold water wet my feet and made me scream with surprise. Carol laughed. "That is how it feels to be alive, Linda." I met Carol's friends, a group of women between 55 and 70 who gathered every afternoon on the pier to drink iced tea and talk about everything. They were widows, divorced, some single, all with stories similar to mine. Sons who didn't call, families who had cast them aside, solitudes, chosen or forced. "Here we are," family one named Norma told me, "the family we choose, not the one we got stuck with." For the first time in a long time, I felt part of something. Meanwhile, in Chicago, Jason was living his own hell. I knew because Mrs. Higgins called me every so often to tell me. Not because I asked, but because she felt I had a right to know. Jason had lost his apartment. He couldn't pay the rent and was evicted. He had to move back in with a friend, sleeping on a couch like a 20-year-old kid without a future. Brittany never came back. She had gone with her new boyfriend to Denver and blocked him everywhere. The job he had lost was at a major company. Now he struggled to get another because there were rumors about legal problems with his family. No one wanted to hire someone who had tried to scam his own mother. He finally got a job at a supermarket stocking shelves. He, who had graduated with a degree in business, who had worked in an office with air conditioning, now carried boxes from 8 to 6 for minimum wage. Mrs. Higgins saw him once at the neighborhood grocery store. He was skinny Linda with dark circles under his eyes. He saw me and hid behind an aisle. He was ashamed that I saw him like that. I felt a pang in my chest when she told me that, but it wasn't pity. It was something more like the sadness of seeing how someone destroys their own life. "Can I ask you something?" Mrs. Higgins said. "Do you ever think about forgiving him?" "Every day," I admitted. "But forgiving doesn't mean returning. Forgiving means letting go of the hate. And I already let it go, but I am not going back to his life. I am not going to be his salvation again." While Jason fell, I started to rise. With Carol, we opened a small business. She knew how to make homemade jams, and I knew how to sew. We rented a booth at the farmer's market on weekends. We sold artisanal jams, and I offered express clothing alterations. We didn't make fortunes, but we made enough. And most importantly, we had fun. We talked to people, laughed, drank tea, watching the ocean. One afternoon in March, an older lady approached our booth. She had to be about 75, with a cane, with her back hunched from osteoporosis. "Do you fix clothes?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am. What do you need?" She showed me an old dress, the kind used 30 years ago, full of memories. It belonged to my late sister. "I want to take it in so it fits me. It is the only thing I have left of her." I took her measurements right there. I told her it would be ready in a week. When she came to get it, she paid me and then stood looking at me with teary eyes. "Thank you, honey. You made me very happy." And I realized that was what I had missed all these years. Serving, helping, feeling useful, but this time without sacrificing myself until I disappeared. This time charging for my work. This time setting clear limits. In June, 4 months after leaving Chicago, Mr. Sterling called me. Linda, your son is asking to contest the will. He says he did it under duress, that he was not in his right mind when he signed. He filed a motion in court. I felt the floor move. Can he do that? He can try, but it won't prosper. I have recordings of our consultation. You were completely lucid. Besides, I have all the bank documentation proving the attempted fraud. If this goes to trial, your son will come out looking worse. What do I have to do? Nothing. I will handle it. I just wanted to let you know. I hung up the phone with shaking hands. Carol made me a chamomile tea. He is never going to stop, is he? I said. Eventually he will get tired. Or he will grow up. Or he will realize he lost. In August, a certified letter arrived. I brought it from the mailbox with my heart in my mouth. It was from Jason. For the first time in 6 months, I had direct news from him. I opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a handwritten letter. With that handwriting, I knew, since he learned to write in 1st grade. Mom, I don't know if you are going to read this. I don't know if you care. But I need to write it. You are right about everything. I was a horrible son. I was selfish, ungrateful, complicit with someone who wanted to hurt you. I let Brittany treat you badly because it was convenient for me. I looked the other way when she made fun of you. I even participated in those mockeries. I thought your money belonged to me. That because I was your only son, I had a right. I didn't understand that you had worked 60 years to get that money, that it was yours, that you could do whatever you wanted with it. Now, I work stocking shelves in a supermarket. I make very little money. I live in a boarding house. I have barely enough to eat. For transport, for everything. For the first time in my life, I understand what it is to not have, what it is to work until your body hurts, what it is to get home without strength for anything, and I understand what you did for me for 35 years. I don't ask for forgiveness because I don't deserve it. I don't ask you to come back because I know you won't. I only ask that you know that although late, I understood. Jason. I read the letter 3 times. I cried over the paper until the ink ran. Carol took it from my hands gently. She read it in silence. Then she looked at me. What are you going to do? Nothing, I said. I am going to keep this letter, and someday, maybe when it hurts less, I will answer him. But not now. Not now. Now I am still healing. I put the letter in a tin box I had bought at the market, the same box where I kept the few photos of Jason I had brought with me. One afternoon in September, I was sitting on the beach watching the sunset. The sun was sinking into the sea, painting everything orange and violet. I had a blanket over my legs because it was getting cool. In my hand, I held an iced tea Carol had made me. My cell phone rang. Chicago number. Unknown. Something made me answer. Mrs. Miller, said a young woman's voice. Yes, it's me. I am Jennifer, your niece, Aunt Brenda's daughter. My heart skipped a beat. Jennifer, my love, how are you? Good, Aunt Linda. I was calling to see how you were. It's been months since we spoke. Mom always said we had to look out for you between the 2 of us, remember? My eyes filled with tears. I remember. Is it true you moved to Florida? Yes, I am here with a friend. I started a new life. I am so glad. And Cousin Jason, how is he? Silence. Then I said, I don't know, Jennifer. We haven't spoken in months. Did something happen? Many things happened, but I don't want to talk about that now. Tell me about you, about the kids. We talked for an hour. She told me about her children, her job, her life. And when we hung up, I stayed looking at the ocean with a new sensation in my chest. I wasn't alone. I had Carol. I had the friends from the market. I had Jennifer and her kids. I had a chosen family, a family that loved me without expecting anything in return. I got up from the sand with effort, shaking off the blanket, and walked toward the house. The sun had already set completely. The city lights were starting to turn on. Carol was waiting for me at the door with a smile. Ready for dinner? Ready, I said. And I entered my new house, my new life, leaving behind forever the Linda who put up with everything, who forgave everything, who let herself be stepped on just to not be alone. Now I was another, harder maybe, colder perhaps, but also more dignified, more free, more mine. And if that meant losing my son to gain myself, then so be it. 2 years have passed since I left Chicago. 2 years since I closed my apartment door for the last time. Since I saw Jason kneeling, begging forgiveness. Since I chose my dignity over a mother's love. Today is a Saturday in November, almost spring here in Florida. It is 7 in the morning, and I am sitting on the little balcony of the house Carol and I bought together a year ago. Yes, you heard right, we bought. With my money from the apartment sale and her savings, we became owners of this little blue house with a garden and 2 floors, 3 blocks from the ocean. Each has her room, her space, her independence, but we share the kitchen, the living room, the talks, the life. I have a cup of hot coffee in my hands, the same coffee Bob used to make me that I later made alone in that silent Chicago apartment. But now it has another flavor. It tastes like freedom. The market business grew more than we imagined. It is no longer just Carol and me. Norma joined with her knitting Graciela, with her plants, Mabel with her woodcrafts. We are 5 women over 60 who get up every weekend to sell our things at the pier. We earn well. We aren't going to become millionaires, but we pay our bills, we treat ourselves, and above all, we feel useful, alive, valuable. 3 months ago, a local producer did a story on us for the local cable channel. Senior Entrepreneurs Defying Prejudices, the program was called. We all appeared, telling our stories. I didn't tell Jason's. I only said I had been widowed, and after many years in Chicago, decided to start over in Clearwater. But Norma told hers how her daughter had abandoned her in a nursing home, and she escaped literally through a window. And Mabel told how her children stole her pension for years until she filed a report. After the program, dozens of older women wrote to us, sought us out at the market, told us their own stories of abandonment, of abuse, of children who treated them like obstacles. And I understood that what I lived was not an exception. It was a silent epidemic no one wants to see. The money I have saved in the bank is no longer $200,000. It is almost $500,000. Between the sale of the apartment, my savings, the investments I made with Mr. Sterling's help, and what I generate with the business, I have enough to live calmly until I am 90, if necessary. And if anything is left over when I die, Jennifer and her kids will inherit a part, and the rest goes to that foundation for abandoned seniors that needs it so much. Jason will not see a single dollar, and although sometimes my heart aches, I know it is the right thing. 6 months ago, I received another letter from him, the second in 2 years. It said he had gotten a better job at a logistics warehouse, that he was saving little by little, that he had started therapy, that he was learning to be a different person, that he missed me every day, that he understood if I never forgave him, but he wanted me to know he was trying to change. This time I did answer him, but it wasn't the letter he expected. Jason, I am glad you are trying to improve your life. That is something you have to do for yourself, not for me. I already rebuilt mine. I am fine. I am happy. I am at peace. I don't hate you, but I don't need you either. Maybe someday, if you show with facts and not words that you truly changed, we can have a coffee like 2 acquaintances who share a past. But for now, I need you to respect my space and my decision. Take care, Linda. Cold, maybe, but honest. I no longer have age for white lies. 3 weeks ago, something happened I didn't expect. I was at the market fixing a hem on some pants when a woman approached my booth. She must have been about 40, well-dressed, with a little girl by the hand. "Are you Linda Miller?" she asked. "Yes, it's me. I am Sandra Brittany's cousin." My blood froze. That last name, that past, I believed buried. I have nothing to talk about with anyone related to her. I said, standing up, "Relax, please. I am not coming to defend her. I come to ask for forgiveness." I froze. The woman had tears in her eyes. "My cousin is a professional scammer. She did the same to others before you. She stole money from my own mother, from my aunt, from all the families where she inserted herself. I found out recently what she did to you and your son. And I wanted to tell you, not all of us are like that what she did was unforgivable, and that I admire your courage greatly for standing up and not letting her get away with it." I didn't know what to say. Carol, who was beside me, squeezed my hand. "Thank you for coming to tell me this," I managed to say finally. "But it's over. I already closed that chapter." "I know. I just wanted you to know Brittany is in jail. They caught her scamming an older man in Denver. She took 10 grand from him and left him on the street. This time, she didn't get away. She is serving a 3-year sentence." I felt something strange in my chest. It wasn't joy. It wasn't sadness. It was just closure. "I hope she learns," I said, "and I hope your son does, too." The woman nodded, gave me a hug I didn't expect, and left with her little girl by the hand. That night, Carol and I opened a bottle of cheap wine and toasted in the garden under the stars. "To second chances," said Carol. "To women who dare to start over," I added, and we clinked glasses with that crystal sound that sounds like a small but real victory. This morning, while I drink my coffee on the balcony, I think of everything I learned in these 2 years. I learned that a mother's love does not have to be a synonym for sacrifice until disappearance. I learned that setting limits is not selfishness, it is survival. I learned that one can be old and start over, that 61 years is not the end, but sometimes a new beginning. I learned that family is not always blood, that sometimes the true family is the one we choose, the one that chooses us back without conditions. I learned that the money one works 60 years for is not for others to waste, but to have dignity in old age, to not depend on anyone, to be able to say no without fear of ending up on the street. I learned that a mother can love her son and at the same time distance herself from him to save herself. And that does not make her a bad mother. It makes her human. I learned that the pain of raising an ungrateful son does not define my whole life, that I am more than that failed motherhood, that I have a right to be happy even if my son is not part of that happiness. And I learned above all that it is never too late to choose oneself. I look at the ocean from my balcony. The waves come and go, constant, eternal. And I think that I am like those waves now. I go and I come. I fall and I get up. I break against the rocks, but I always return. The cell phone rings. It is Jennifer. "Auntie, how are you? The kids wanted to know if they can come visit you on summer vacation." My heart swells with joy. "Of course they can come, my love. I wait for them here with open arms." Those kids, my great-nephews, call me Great Aunt. They send me drawings on WhatsApp. They ask me how the ocean is. They miss me, without hidden agendas, without expecting inheritances, without calculating how much I will leave them when I die. That is real love, the kind that asks for nothing in return. When I hang up, I stay looking at the phone screen. I have a background photo I took a month ago. It is me with Carol and the girls from the market all hugging in front of the ocean, smiling like teenagers. My white hair is in the wind, wrinkles around my eyes, spots on my hands. But I am smiling for real. And it shows. That is me now, Linda Miller, 63 years old, widow. Former shopkeeper, entrepreneur, survivor, free woman. And if you, listening to this story, feel identified, I want to tell you something important. You are not alone. It is better to be alone with dignity than accompanied by humiliation. Your adult children are not your responsibility forever. You already gave them your life, and the years that remain are yours alone. If you have to change your will, change the locks, or move across the country to protect your peace, do it with your head held high. This is a fictional story, but the pain and the triumph are real for thousands of us. Never forget that your life belongs to you, and nobody has the right to steal it.